and that's Dr. Saeed Jamil Haifa, the chair of the economics department at BZ University, and equally importantly, perhaps for the topic today, the chair of the Palestinian Trade Promotion Organization. X. So, how do you see the future vision for the Palestinian state?
Thank you for your invitation, your kind invitation to participate in this conference. And indeed, it's a privilege for me to join such a distinguished panelist in addressing the theme of what should a Palestinian state look like. I would like to stress at the outset that my views are personal, and they arise out of the extreme injustice imposed on our people, together with the enduring hope that trust that we will eventually overcome and become free of the prolonged Israeli occupation, which punctuated every aspect of our life. Israel grabbed 78% of historical Palestine in 1948 and has been occupying the remaining 22% since 1967. Having said that, let me dream, I'm dreaming, okay? Let me dream that Israel and consequently the United States have accepted the creation of a Palestinian state on the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, including East Jerusalem, which would become its capital. To answer the question of the panel, what should a Palestinian state look like? First, I should mention that there are several peace plans, agreements, initiatives, conferences that try to or have been conducted to settle the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But unfortunately, none of these plans and agreements and others have so far succeeded in solving and ending this conflict. And I think the main reason beyond that is the basic requirements that are needed for Palestinian human survival and well-being, such as land, water, security, freedom of mobility of persons and goods, as well as the national requirements for the survival and prosperity of a nation, such as sovereignty, cultural development, and others, never addressed in these different agreements. And now, what should a Palestinian state look like? I am looking for a Palestinian state that will put an end to the historical Israeli-Palestinian conflict and bring a just, lasting, durable peace that will achieve peace dividends for all parties as well as the region as a whole. Such a Palestinian state should satisfy the following conditions. First, end the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land through complete Israeli withdrawal from all land occupied in 1967. Second, establish a fully sovereign, democratic, independent state, lives with peace and security side by side with the Israeli state based on international laws, two-state solution, the roadmap, the position of European Union, the Arab Initiative, etc. Establish a state with defined borders, 1967 borders, with geographical integrity, based on the United Nations Security Resolution 242, which calls for ending the occupation and setting a Palestinian state. This also mentioned to honor the right of return of Palestinian refugees according to the international laws and UN resolution. A state that has full control over its borders and crossing points with its neighboring countries, a state that has control over its human and natural resources, a state that guarantees the freedom of mobility of persons and goods within the state and from and into the state, a state with efficient national institutions, constitution, and democratic civil society organizations capable of providing public services to the people efficiently, looking for a viable Palestinian state with a sustainable development and durable economic growth, which requires increases in the private sector involvement and investment, looking for a state that will be able to participate positively in the economic development and economic prosperity of the region as well as the international levels, through bringing a warm peace and achieving peace dividends for all parties in the region involved. Such a Palestinian state will help to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and bring peace and security to Israel and Palestinian people as well as the people of the region. Finally, peace is of vital interest not only for Palestinians, but also for the Israelis and for all the people in the region, and even to the United States, as President Barack Obama said, the creation of a Palestinian state or the two-state vision is of vital national American interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Said. And let me now hand over and ask the same question to one of our own, to Professor Yazid Zaig, who is a professor of Middle East Studies at King's.
Thanks, Peter. Well, I think I'll come closer not to Said's dream, but to Diana's reality by suggesting that pretty much everything that's done nowadays in the name of the peace process is make-believe. And that includes also much to do with the massive assistance program for institutional capacity building, technical assistance in the security sector, in the civil service, etc. In fact, one very senior European official put it to me just at the beginning of this year, in January, that the continued assistance from Europe is to maintain the fiction. Now, this has a bearing on what I see the future looking like in terms of a Palestinian state and its internal politics and its governance. First, I want to put another fiction to rest, that the Palestinians have been in particular need of institution building. The reality is that at least by 1999, in the opinion of the World Bank, and I would argue pretty much any time after the establishment of the Palestinian Authority in 1994, that the PA had sufficient institutional capacity to govern commensurate with that of, or exceeding that of, many independent member states of the United Nations. The issue is not one of institutional capacity or the lack of it. To take one simple example, which is used as an indicator of state failure or state robustness by such bodies as the World Bank, take that of domestic revenue generation. Within 2 years of the establishment of the PA, it was deemed to be more effective than many states in its own region, just to take one indicator. So this is not the issue, although if you were to look at what international diplomacy has focused on for the last 8 years, you'd think that that was, in fact, the central issue. It is not. Now, what is the reality we have today? First of all, the complete breakdown of constitutional order. The idea that Palestinians and their main political organizations agree on a higher authority that determines and shapes and regulates political contestation. We now have two rival governments in Gaza and the West Bank, neither of which, in my view, is constitutional, both of which claim constitutionality. What I'm pointing out here is a number of distinct sort of headline remarks. First, having visited Gaza most recently in January, quite briefly, unfortunately, but nonetheless, since I know Gaza reasonably well, I was struck, and my research since then confirms, that what we have today in Gaza under Hamas looks, acts, and thinks far more like a state than anything in the West Bank. So if we're looking for a model of the Palestinian state to come, then Gaza offers a very real model. And it's one that has survived a total international financial boycott, except for obviously covert assistance coming from private donors in the Gulf or Zakat committees or from Iran. But considering that all this happens under siege, means that it's actually endured under circumstances that its predecessor government under Fatah leadership, the previously dominant nationalist movement, were unable to face up to. So it has done more with much, much less.